welcome to another episode of Words with Friends. This time I'm with one of my best friends in this profession. I'm with the great Clay Hebert. And for those of you that don't know Clay, you probably know by now that I know a handful of smart people. And Clay is the smart person that the smart people go to when they need some extra levels of smarts. So you might not necessarily know him by name. You might not know him because of the books that he has written, but you will know of dozens and dozens and dozens of the books that have been spawned into the world through his mind or have gone on to reach huge levels of excellence through the work that he has done. And there are probably dozens of solutions that you benefit from today that only exist because Clay at some point was involved in a conversation with one of the founders. So Clay, welcome to Words with Friends.
I am so excited to be here chatting with one of my favorite humans on the planet.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you. Well, we do a lot of things together, so I'm intrigued to see how this might come out. Clay is my co-host, co-presenter in a series of workshops we've done together called Exactly Perfect. And the exactly part you probably get if you know anything about my work. But Clay's famous for the perfect intro, for the perfect calendar, for the perfect... What else? What else is perfect in your life other than your beard?
The perfect brand is the third part of the trifecta. I love the marketing stuff. Yeah, but it's just a fun way to help people. I think perfect's gotten a bad rap over the years, and you can't open Instagram nowadays without every third post saying, something against the word perfect. And yet I think, we've all had perfect meals and perfect kisses and perfect moments and perfect workshops and speeches. And I think something we should strive for.
Yeah, I think we should strive for it today. And the word I'm going to pick for you today is not perfect.
Oh, wonderful.
I'm
excited
that
to
would
hear
have been
what it
the
is.
easy one to be able to
Of course, that would have been the layout.
On this show, we discuss a single word and we dive into it from a number of different angles. But I picked this word for you today on purpose. And the word I picked is clarity.
I love it.
Any idea why I might have picked that word for you?
Because you can't spell clarity without Clay. No. No. C-L-A-Y. I was like,
You've been waiting for
are the letters correct? I was like, I think that's true. No, I love the word clarity, and you and I have talked a lot about that, about helping people get clarity. And one of the things I love is it's really hard to, you can't take out your own appendix, and even if you're the best tattoo artist in the world, you can't give yourself a back tattoo. So I think it's one of the things you and I love to do is help people get clarity on their business model, their messaging, positioning, sales, marketing, whatever. And it's easier to do from 5 feet away. So it's literally one of my favorite words. So I love it.
Tell me what it really means to you. If you were to define or describe clarity so somebody would understand your interpretation of it, what would your definition of the word be?
Absolutely. I think it's like when you have a telescope. It doesn't matter if it's a telescope or a microscope. When you're looking through it, I think that's how a lot of us see, our business or the world currently, where when you first walk up to a telescope or a microscope and you put your eye on it, what's almost always true. Something's blurry, something's out of focus, something doesn't look as clear as it could be. And it usually doesn't take turning the dial much, whether it's a telescope pointing out to the stars or whether it's a microscope looking at a microorganism. You turn the dial a couple micro clicks or a couple, quarters of an inch, and all of a sudden everything comes into focus and it becomes clear. And that is one of my favorite things to do, whether it's for a friend working on their book or a client seeing the way the world is going. That sort of clarity. It's that turning of the dial where everything becomes clear, everything becomes in focus, the edges are sharp and they can see what's coming, and it's almost impossible to do for yourself.
Okay. And so what you're saying is to find clarity, what there needs to be always is some form of sounding board, somebody to ask you the questions you're not prepared to ask yourself, somebody to give you the reassurance and the nod and the smile back that says, aha, you might be onto something.
Yeah. And you and I love to do this, together in our Exactly Perfect workshops in the way that, it's happened maybe 6 times over those few days where we glance at each other with that knowing smile. And what we're sort of saying is who's going to reach over and turn the microscope or telescope a quarter of an inch so that everything becomes clear, and we just throw it to each other or let the other person do it. But the reason I say it's hard to do it for yourself, even for us, even for you and I, And I think that's one reason we love jamming together is you can't, there's the phrase everybody knows, you can't see the label from inside the jar. Analogy I love is a story of a bunch of bumblebees. You and I are standing 10 feet away from the most beautiful church in all of Europe, and there's 10 bumblebees on the stained glass window, and one bumblebee says to the other, "Man, that's a beautiful blue church." And the other one says, "Man, you're smoking something. That's a beautiful green church." And the third one
Right.
says, "You're both on something. That's a beautiful red church," because they're on a stained glass window, and you and I, as 5 feet away, can see that they're all looking at it. And that's how we all are with our businesses. We're the bumblebee on the stained glass window. We're way too close to it, and everything looks red or blue or green. And we need somebody 5 feet away to tell us, that we're too close to it.
I think clarity comes easier in an upwards market, right? When everything's moving forward and there's some momentum. And I think it's not necessarily clarity that they have, but people have someone to follow or something to follow. So they find clarity for themselves in borrowing somebody else's footsteps.
Yeah,
In markets
absolutely.
like right now, how do you see that being different?
I think what's really interesting is the people that are willing to pause right now, understand, and not panic. There's just as much opportunity for clarity right now, but you're not looking at a microscope or a telescope if you feel like you're falling off of a cliff. If you feel like you're falling and the world is crumbling around you, that's not the time when you reach for the microscope or the telescope. But right now, if you look at the last time something of this magnitude happened, um, what was the opportunity, right? So the crash happened, the real estate crash, 2001. PayPal had just raised a bunch of money literally a few days before the crash. So they were in a fortunate position. They had some cash. But what did they do? They didn't just say, "Oh, the world is ending. What are we going to do?" They went out and got a bunch of talent, because talent was, it's always looking at
Yep.
what's available, what's resources. So you got Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, Reid Hoffman. PayPal minted 8 or so billionaires. And it's not an accident that a bunch of them came to PayPal at this time when they were able to go out and recruit a bunch of talent. Right now is the same thing. So, depending on your current level of resources and things, I think an opportunity for people to have clarity, and just pause, taking that pause and not panicking. It's impossible. One of the phrases I love is, you can't innovate when you have both hands clutching a fire extinguisher. If you're holding, literally just think of the visual of holding a red fire extinguisher, because everything feels like it's on fire. That's not the time where you sit and ponder and innovate over a cigar and a glass of scotch, like you and I sometimes do. And so I think we have to pause, and whether you have the cigar, whether you have the scotch, you have to make sure that if things really are on fire and you need the fire extinguisher, do that. But I think right now, especially with the media and things like that, we're creating a lot of metaphorical fire extinguishers.
So if we're to think about maybe just jamming out some ideas together, if somebody is currently feeling stuck, they're spinning on the spot, they understand where they're going is not right, or what they were doing is now no longer a possibility because the world's changed from them, what might be one thing that they could do to help them find clarity? You go first, I'll go next, you go next. We'll see what we can be able to do here. So hit me. What might be a first step somebody could do to find clarity?
Yeah, absolutely. I like to think of it in terms of 3 letters, FRT, the FRT model. So foundational, relational, and transactional. So foundational are the things that it may not generate sales in the moment, but I like your suggestion. Let's take a real example. So let's say you're a personal trainer laid off from a gym because nobody can go to the gym right now. So let's just say your name is Austin, and you work at a local gym. You're one of the top personal trainers at a high-end local gym downtown, and the gym is closed. Nobody can come, et cetera, but you have your stable of, let's say, 20 clients. So foundationally, Austin could create a bunch of YouTube videos and publish them on YouTube, building his brand, building his awareness, showing people that he knows how to do that. The R is relational. So it's one step more than sort of blasting to social media. It's not everyone. R might be one-on-one communication and contact with your customer, but still not in the form of selling necessarily. And so this might be, let's say you're at home and you have these clients who are at home and they're wondering and they're saying, gosh, I don't know what to do. here's how to build a home gym at any budget, 0, 50, 100, whatever. So maybe you could put together a PDF or a video resource,
Yeah.
and then email it or DM it to your clients and say, hey, I know none of us can go work out at the gym like we used to. Here's how to build a home gym at any resource or at any budget level. And then the last part, which I call T, is transactional. This is more sales based. This is more, and then some of those clients that come out of those two phases are going to say, you know what, the reason I pay and hire you is because I know that I'm not going to do this on my own. I'm going to, I need your help. So I'm going to personally train you via Zoom. So foundationally, they could put a bunch of workouts on YouTube. Relationally, they could send it to PDF to their clients of how to build a home gym at any budget. And then transactional could be literally saying, hey, if those two don't work for you, happy to train you live via Zoom at an hourly rate. And so you're hitting all the things. And what's amazing is that is true now during the way the world is right now, but it's also true at any point. We should be thinking about those three things.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And at any point in time, just even having that model or framework to work around could help somebody find some clarity of action, right?
Right.
They probably need to do at least one thing in each of those three areas to be able to keep things moving forward. And the
Right.
human brain likes things in threes, right? We love the rhythm of threes. You see it show up in comedy. You see it show up in presentation skills. You see it show up in blog posting. You see it show up in Instagram, like these three things. So why don't I give something that can help people on clarity that has a rhythm of threes on
Yes.
two as well? And I think sometimes it's just worth looking at things through the lens of traffic lights, right? It's what is something that I'm going to stop doing?
Love it.
What is something I'm going to keep doing? And what is something I'm going to start doing, right? Is if you just give yourself that framework around maybe what you've been up into in the past. And let's just look at this and say that you've had a consulting business for a significant period of time. The stop could be, well, like there's a client that you've had forever that you know you shouldn't have had, that you like it's run its course over a period of time, and actually it weighs heavy on you from a relationship point of view. Maybe that's the stop. The keep might be doing what you've always done, which is putting out quality content, sharing it out through multiple platforms, having it show up on LinkedIn, producing great information through being a podcast guest, whatever it might be, that you're going to keep doing that. What could the start be? Well, the start could be saying, how do you take all the experience that you have right now, shoot a little bit higher into maybe bigger clients that could use your help that are slightly outside of your comfort zone, that now all of a sudden you're better equipped to be able to go at, and that the opportunities that are being presented right now could well be the very thing that that means that the timing could be perfect for you, that it wasn't right a while ago. But what happens in that stop, keep, start framework from a clarity point of view is the stop creates the room for the start.
Yeah, absolutely. I love
What
that.
else you got? What else you got? Something that people could do right now that might help them drive clarity.
Yeah, for sure. So a couple, let's flip from, let's say, a personal trainer to a photographer. Your good friend, John, photographer you've worked with a
Yep.
lot, has pivoted to a very interesting offering.
I wonder how that happened.
Yeah, I'm sure that looked like it might've had your fingerprints on it. Another one that I love, there's a young woman in our marketing school program. She is a photographer based out of St. Louis. She does wedding, couples, portraits, those kind of things, a lot of things that she's not able to do right now. And she came up with a very interesting, very clever pivot to her business model. She said, so she's wanting to grow a new offering around product photography. So taking pictures of, boxes and things that you would sell online, e-commerce, CBD, that kind of thing. And so her offer was very simple, just like John's offer is very simple. Send me whatever you want product photos taken of. Here's my address. The post office still works, FedEx, etc. And I will take the photos and digitally send them back to you. That is the offer. I keep whatever you send me, and you get I emailed the photos back. So she literally said, it's no cost except you just ship me whatever. And now she has, she gets a bunch of new products, or she can give it to friends.
Tons of stuff. Yeah. And she's got
an
amazing eBay store now.
100%. Yeah. Or gifts for friends and words with friends, gifts for friends. And yeah, absolutely. Etsy, eBay, whatever. But to your point, to come back to our word of the day of clarity, one thing that's super important, especially in what's going on right now, is clarity of your offer. And what I love about what you helped John get to and what she's doing is the clarity of the offer is very, very clear. It can be explained in one sentence. send me your stuff. I'll take amazing product photos and send them back to you, and I keep the stuff. Done. And now it's true more than ever, but it's always true, but it's true more than ever now, that if you confuse them, they're gone. Because when people are stressed and grappling and feeling like they're falling and things like that, the clarity of offering, pricing, how it gets delivered, et cetera, has to be more clear than ever. And you and I have talked about what that looks like in the speaking and delivery world.
Let's talk on that for a second then and say, how do you find clarity on offer? What do you do to be able to make sure that your offer is clear? Because we're getting lots of people right now that are saying, well, I'm worth X. And they're holding on to maybe old pricing models, or they're standing on with nostalgia to the way that things used to be. And they believe that their value is X regardless of what it might be worth to somebody else. And I think there is something in that. I think that we should understand what our wholesale price is, and we don't undersell ourselves versus our wholesale pricing if we're thinking that we're in time for money as a business in some way. But if I'm looking at saying, how do you create clarity of an offer? I look at a few things. One, is it timely? Like does it show up for the moment that it exists in right now? Two, does it have like empathy in it? Is it laced in that show me, you know me button? Does it talk towards a group of people that I've already predetermined? And three is it fair? Like, does it feel like it is fair to all parties? Is like the monetary exchange in this as fair as possible? And to get to be able to create something that shows up with those three things in it, the starting point that I'd typically look at for somebody to help find clarity is, who are the people you're looking to help? And what are the problems you're looking to solve for?
That's right.
Take your example just now. Who are the people you're looking to help? Well, there are loads of people that are trying to launch new products, have new products, looking to develop new products, but they cannot get those to market because they don't currently have photographs for them. The problem I'm looking to solve for them is to create the high quality imagery in as most convenient way as possible.
Right.
Easy to create an offer off the back of that. What's
100%.
Clay got to add to those thoughts?
Yeah, I love what you said, and the word empathy was already in my brain, and I want to dig in on that. I think context is so important for what's going on. Context of the situation, context of where we're in. So, you and I sometimes like to use analogies or big, simple examples. Imagine, our friend Neen James loves the big Louis Vuitton travel trunks. I know she's got a vision of wanting one of those someday. So imagine the big, gorgeous, they're expensive, they're heavy, they're beautiful, et cetera, et cetera. There's value in that. I think we're seeing a lot of folks in our industry right now and in other industries saying, well, this is my value. I'm this expensive Louis Vuitton trunk. I'm worth it, damn it. I'm worth it. Well, if I fell off a boat and I'm drowning in the ocean, what is that Louis Vuitton trunk worth to me? It's very heavy. If anything, it's going to drag me down. Now, what would it be worth to have a $5 beach ball that's inflated that I can, hold and keep me, or a $10 life preserver, right? Worth a lot more. So I think thinking of our value in terms of context to the situation. So again, back to the empathy word that you said of this personal trainer, he can say, I'm worth $100 an hour. So why would I build, these YouTube videos and publish them for free? Well, that's understanding the difference between brand marketing and direct marketing. But then the context, coming at it from, you'll come up with these solutions if you stop thinking about where you're at and what your value is, and you're worth it, darn it, like the Louis Vuitton trunk. But instead, what is your customer feeling, right? Your customer that wanted to come into the gym 3 days a week. And now, instead of the personal trainer saying, it's not fair that I can't go to the gym, all you have to do is, and sometimes it's helpful, it sounds silly, but get up from your chair, walk across the table, and sit down in the chair that's facing you and pretend you are your customer. What is their pain point? What is their, to use your word I love, empathy, having empathy for that. Okay, well, they want to come into the gym too and work out with you, but they're sitting at home. And so what are their options? Work out by themselves? Cool, help them figure out how to build a home gym on a budget. They want to work out with you on Zoom, et cetera, do that. So that empathy, and starting with how they feel as opposed to how you feel. And I think in our world of speaking and workshops and things like that, instead of coming at it from, how do I decorate my home office to do a virtual keynote? Why don't we come at it from, what are my clients trying to do? Well, they don't really care. Nobody wakes up in the morning saying, I need to book a speaker with the best backlighting. They want a solution to their problem. And then from there, that's the kernel of interesting ideas and brainstorming solutions.
Yeah, and that problem could be that we've got, a content gap within the knowledge base of our employees. That problem could be we promised an 8-person speaker series to this group of people, and we need to get like faces for the flyer by Friday.
Mm-hmm.
That problem could well be, well, we've got this burning hole of money that we need to get rid of. Otherwise, we're never going to have this in our budget for next year. So we'd love to have a program for this. It
Right.
could well be that we just had to let go the 3 people who are in our events management team through a series of furloughs. And what we still want to be able to do is to deliver an event, but we've got no idea how, right? These could all be very real life problems within somebody in the speaking business customer base. None of them are thinking, what's your fee?
Right.
They're thinking about an altogether different problem. And if they're asking what's your fee, what they're really asking is, I hope I can afford you. That's
100%.
what they're really asking.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's Legos, not bricks. How do we design and click together a solution that solves your problem in a colorful way, as opposed to putting a speaker on stage, right?
Lego is not bricks. I like that. Lego is not bricks. So if we're talking about clarity of messaging, what I'm hearing from you here right now is the first place to start is to think about who are the people you care about and what are they feeling right now. That's what you're
whatever.
and
You and I do this all day, every day as a profession, so it may be easy for us. So I just want to underscore that with do whatever it takes. If you have to get up from your seat and go sit at the other seat at your table to do whatever it takes to empathize with your customer. It might mean interview them. It might mean read what they're writing online. It might mean whatever it takes to do, however you have to trick your brain or get into the shoes of your customer. Because we gloss over it because we say, yeah, of course, empathize with your customer, come at it from their perspective. But doing that, whatever you need to do that, talk to them. They're home and they have time. One brilliant excuse, you and I in the workshops we do, often it comes up, well, I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to launch podcasts or be good at social media. And even though that's normally not true, and we make time for whatever we make time for, it's especially true now. People are home, and if there's one thing they have, it's time. But do whatever it takes to get in the shoes of your customer and to have that empathy, because all these creative solutions start with that empathy.
Such a good point. And we try and second guess what customers want all the time. And they will tell you if you ask them, right? They will give you great vision and insight. Here is a real laser focused set of tactics that you can go at, that if you're brave enough to be able to actually lean into conversations with customers and ask them some questions, then here is a 3-question questionnaire that you could run with that I think would give you a huge amount of insight. First question to any of your existing customers is, what 3 things do you like best about working with us? The reason I would ask somebody what 3 things is I get a ranked list. Mm-hmm. If you want to understand what the 3 things end up coming out as, the first thing they tell you is the first thing they thought of.
Yep.
There is no ranking on that thing. It just happens to be the first thing they thought of. The second thing is probably the most important thing. And the third thing is, and what else?
Sure.
Now you got the second question in this 3-question questionnaire is, and if there was one thing you could ever change about the way we do things, what would the one thing be? Here you find something you can make some movement, some changes on, but they're very happy to be able to share it with you because they've just told you 3 positives. They're now very open to be able to say, hey, we'd love it if you did blank. And then I would say, what hopes and ambitions do you have for us for the future?
Beautiful.
Like if we take your Jim example right now, and he picked up the phone to his existing client base and said, what 3 things have you liked best about working with us? It's like, I love the energy of your classes when I came towards the gym environment. I love the fact that you always gave me very clear instructions of the things that I should be doing at home between those classes. And I like that I felt like I was your friend. Oh, cool. And if there's one thing you could change about this, what would the one thing be? Well, I'd always love to have like more personal attention from you. I feel like in the class environment that, I'm not your favorite. I'm a little bit more introverted. I'd just love to get a little bit more of me and you time so I could ask you some of the questions that I have in my head. I just don't want to interrupt. Okay, and what hopes and ambitions do you have for the future for us? Is it'd be great if you provided a solution for us that meant that we could have some one-on-one contact between the virtual programs that you create for us so that I could get your guidance, I could check in on your progress, and I could just feel some of your energy. I don't need you to instruct me. I just want to tell you what I've been up to and feel back from you what I'm doing wrong, and for you to steer me in the right direction. In fact, I
Mm-hmm.
just want us to be friends, right? You could get that. And how much clarity would that give that gym instructor to be like, I know what I need to do. Bing,
Absolutely.
just come up with an
Absolutely.
idea.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah. The clarity comes from empathy and being able to put yourself in their shoes and ask those questions. And I love that line of questioning. I love that 3-question questionnaire. That's beautiful.
So somebody who's stuck right now, because it's easy when you've got like, I've got to get clarity of getting from like Y to Z.
Mm-hmm.
That feels like it's easier. But what if you're in a situation where maybe you've been let go in your job?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your business is just like it can't exist in this new environment. Like the rug's been pulled from underneath it. There is no future in that market right now based on current circumstances, and you're feeling stuck. What advice would you have for somebody who has almost zero clarity and they're just spinning on the spot confused?
Mm-hmm. What I would start with is, and this goes a little, you and I have talked about where we land on the woo-woo scale, and I live in Southern California, not far from Encinitas, where people tend to be higher on that scale. But this is real and it's true. What I would do is start with asking yourself the question, what do I believe is true that might not be true? Or another version of that, what stories am I telling myself about my place in the world and my vocation and the work that I do that may not be true? Maybe they were never true, or maybe they're not true going forward. One of my friends, Eric Prue, made a documentary movie back in the last crash, when Detroit and the automakers and everything else, when the big crash happened last time, and thousands and thousands of people in Detroit lost their jobs at the auto factories. He made a movie simply called Lemonade, and it was about people making lemonade from lemons, like the old saying. But what was amazing is these people figured out that he always wanted to open, a little cafe and a bakery or whatever, but he'd been pulling a lever at the Ford Motor Plant for 12 years. And so it took he knew he wanted this, and every day he woke up thinking about it, but it took Ford Motor Plant crashing for him to do it. So as opposed to a business tactical thing immediately, which you and I do a lot, I would just take a pause, go for a walk, and think about, what stories are you telling yourself? One of those stories might be, my parents told me I have to have this long, stable job at the Ford Motor Company, and maybe that in 2009, 2010, that story wasn't true anymore. And then he was able to open his bakery and become a successful entrepreneur. So I would just pause, as opposed to a business tactic. I would say, what stories aren't true? Whose life am I living? Who am I trying to impress by these hoops I'm jumping through, the way that I've structured my business and my life and things like that? What's not true in this moment?
Have you done any of that work over the years?
Yeah, lots. Yeah, and it's never done. It's sort of like fitness or nutrition or anything else. It's never done. That's a big reason why I developed the Perfect Calendar, because one thing that I think you and I share is helping people do deeper work by, for lack of a better term, dangling some more basic, straightforward candy in front of them. Right? When I talk about the perfect intro, it's very simple and very innocuous. And I just said, oh, you know that stupid thing we learned called the elevator pitch? And you know how many people ask us, so what do you do? I'm just gonna help you come up with a better line, a better answer for that. So what do you do? It sounds like 6 words. That's not intimidating. I don't show up at their door and say, I'm going to get to the core of the stories you tell yourself about your identity and what you believe and what you're worth and everything else, because nobody wants to wake up and buy that. But that's where we get pretty quickly. And the Perfect Calendar, I'm just going to say, we're just going to look at your calendar and decide what it is that you love to do, what kinds of meetings you'd like more of, what kind of meetings you'd like less of, and how you want to spend your personal time with your family and friends. And said, oh, okay, that's cool. We might even color code your calendar. Very, very simple. As opposed to, this is what we're going to talk deeply about your place in the world and how you spend this one magical, amazing life that we all only have one of.
I like that a lot. I asked you the question, have you done any of this work? I need to then just dig a little deeper on there. Is maybe
Sure.
over the last 3, 4, 5 years, what are a handful of discoveries that you created about yourself and your own direction from asking yourself those kind of questions?
Yeah, one of the big things that's come up for me, and one thing we're considering doing is moving again. I moved from New York City to Southern California in April of 2015, so about 5 years ago. And one of the things I've really asked myself is, what's most important to me? Is it the fact that I like to live in Southern California near the beach and it's perfect weather and everything else? I've been surfing once in 5 years in Southern California. In fact, I've been surfing more times when I'm not in Southern California in the last 5 years than when I am here in Southern California. I've taken my own surfboard to the beach here once in the last 5 years. So that's a story I need to explore and dig in, right? And this is, we talked about health clubs earlier. This is the business model that health clubs are built on, because people don't cancel the gym membership because they convince themselves they're going to start going. And if I fell prey to that trap, I'd say, oh, well, I've just been really busy. I'm going to start surfing again next month. But we're considering potentially moving to Austin because, if I'm honest with myself, I should just sell the surfboard and try. And what might be more important than living in a place where I can surf is living in a place where more of my friends live down the street. I called a friend of mine and I said, here's the address of the house that we're considering trying out for June. And he said, I said, how far away are you? I knew he lived in Austin. I didn't know where he lived in Austin. He said, oh, that's 4 blocks from me, like half a
Right.
mile walkable. And he said, you know who else lives here? Noah and Jeff and Catherine. And so this neighborhood we're considering moving to Austin, 5 of my top 100 friends live within a mile. So that's, to me, that, and the work I've done around, perfect calendar and thinking where I want to spend my time. I want to walk to my friends. I want to have them come over for a barbecue. Maybe the water-based thing isn't the ocean and the saltwater in my surfboard. Maybe it's the pool in the backyard, and I want to flip burgers and serve food to my friends.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that's such a simple example, but such a profound one, right? Is that decision could result in you living a demonstrably different life.
Very different.
But it comes from asking yourself those questions of what have I been telling myself that is true that might not be true? And I like the word in there, that might not be true. Like, let's
Right.
approach this with some curiosity. Let's not get angry at yourself or get mad at yourself like you've had a mistake. It's giving yourself permission to say, well, hold on, was I just weaving a little off track here? And I need to start bringing this back in another direction. And through this whole pandemic, something I've said a lot, both to myself and to others, is to keep looking for the gifts in this crisis. And I'm not giving any disrespect towards the fact that there is crazy bad stuff that is happening in the world throughout all of what's been going on. There are gifts too. That is also true. And if we can hunt those things out, then what we might be able to do is to just spend some more time chasing after that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I remember after 9/11, and you do as well. Like, it was a terrible, tragic event, and all the loss of life and all the tragedy, but there was no better light switch for togetherness and connectedness and patriotism. If you remember, we all woke up very patriotic on September 12th. And now what's interesting is we have another big thing going on, and we're not able to physically be together. The nature of this particular thing means we're physically separated more than we have in the past. But I was just reading some really interesting articles over the last few days about how if you sort of set aside the media, what we're seeing with people supporting frontline workers and nurses and things like that,
Yep.
there is a deep feeling of connectedness, and there's not as much divisiveness as long as you sort of turn off mainstream television and media and the news.
Yeah, and clarity over who's important in your life too, right? Is that
Yes.
whole piece of how many friendships can I really maintain? How many clubs can I really belong to? How many things can I give my attention towards in that right kind of way? And I've certainly found it's been a little easier to decide, who do I want to invest
Mm-hmm.
my time with? Where do I want to actually better direct my energy towards?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to get real tactical with you for a second, because I think there's a gift that I'd like many of the listeners to have from you. And it's a tiny little thing that you taught me once upon a time. And the clarity that you put it across in is simplistically beautiful, but it's this power of verbing your now.
Mm-hmm.
And with all the work that is going to be going on right now of people redefining their offers, reworking their value proposition, starting to think about how they communicate about themselves, their new offering, or how they're going to bring themselves to the world, why is verb your noun important?
Yeah, absolutely. So you and I do a lot with marketing and sales, and I think now is a really good time to, while we're home and we have time to start building a stronger foundation. And verb your noun, to me, the two most powerful words in marketing. I'll come at it from the marketing side. Usually come at it from the sales side, but I know you believe in this as well. To me, the two most powerful words in marketing are you and your, because those two words do something magical, which is they automatically not make it about you, and they make it about your customer, your client, who you're talking to. And verb your noun is sort of the last part of what I teach around the perfect intro. So the perfect intro is I help people, and then you can customize all those words down the road, but I help people. And then whatever result you help them do or achieve or become. And if you can phrase that in verb their noun, all you have to do is change their to your, and it becomes a beautiful website headline, a beautiful name of a course, can be a beautiful name of a book. If you're talking about being quirky or interesting, it could be find your weird. Well, if my friend Jason Zook wrote a book called that, and because his people want to find their weird. Or when I used to do stuff with crowdfunding, it was fund your dream. I don't mention Kickstarter. I don't mention Indiegogo. I don't mention even the industry of crowdfunding. They have a dream and they want it funded. So stop and think and ask yourself, what is the noun that your customers want verbed? And then what is that verb? They have a dream, they want it funded. So fund your dream.
So I want
Automatically, I
five,
have,
6, 7 examples from you on this. Is okay, you're building a new online gym, studio working from home. What's a verb your noun example?
rediscover your body.
Okay, love that one. Now, what you're thinking about doing is looking for a title of a book that is about understanding mindset and the impact that that can have on success in the corporate world.
Find your corner office.
Now you're in a situation where you're building a small new brick and mortar business that is going to provide the most boutique hair care experience because people are now thinking more about haircuts than they ever have done in the past.
Carve your image. Carve as in the hair, and the image is what you result.
Like it. Okay, new restaurant is opening up in town, and the restaurant is opening up. It's different to any restaurant that's had in the past. It's leaning into the fact that fewer people are going to be at tables. This is about providing an experience where people get great food and get to meet great people, but they don't know who the great people are.
Taste your future.
Let's do one more. And guys, you have to know that none of this was prepped or planned. Just so to understand is one more. What if we said a new airline is opening? Because we've realized that most of the existing airlines have kind of sucked in some way. And what they're doing is they are genuinely putting customers first, and they are looking to provide something that delivers great value for money and levels of premium service for the business traveler only.
That's it. Find yourself. Because wherever they go.
Yeah. I like that a lot. So that was fun. That was fun working those. Putting you on the spot on a podcast without any edits to say, what can we do to help some brands find clarity? And it's definitely worth you thinking for yourself right now while you're listening to this. Are you verbing your noun, or what could you be doing to be able to do more of this? Whether it's for a website headline, or whether it's for a business card, strapline, tagline, book cover, what else could it show up as?
Yeah, for sure. Business cards are great. One little trick you've seen me teach on business cards is, it's 2020. People say business cards are dead. That's fine. I think you can have them or you can not have them. It's kind of up to you. But if you do have them, to me, it's silly to just have your name, rank, and serial number, or name, email and office phone number on there. There's a company called Moo Cards, no affiliation, moo.com, MOO. And on the back of the Moo Cards, they're the only company I know that allows you to have 50 different images in a pack of 50. So the front says Phil Jones or Clay Hebert, and then you flip it over. Most business cards are blank, or at the very, sort of almost a bit egotistical to have your corporate logo, as if they didn't know the logo could be on the front of the card. What if the back told a story? So if you're a bakery, show me 50 different cakes on the back. Great photography. You can send them to be in St. Louis, or 50 testimonials of people you've worked with and transformations you've had. The key thing here is when you tell the story, the best way to tell your story is to let your clients tell it for you. And the back of your business card can be the best way to do that. If you're a wedding photographer, to me, it's criminal to walk around with business cards that don't have 50 beautiful photos of brides and grooms and things that you've taken. Why would you walk around with a business card that's not a visual representation of your portfolio? And even if you're not a photographer, there's something you can do. And this is good, simple, creative challenge homework for the listeners. How can you tell the story on the backs of your business cards? And then go to moo.com and upload those.
Such a simple tip as well. And these little things that you can do to help you build your perfect brand, help you tell your story better. If you put the thought and energy in, find clarity over your messaging, they don't have to cost a ton of money. They don't have to be something that you're investing thousands into. This can be things that you can just start to be able to do. And like our mutual friend Jay Bear says, they can become talk triggers, right? These can become things that people talk about that start to serve your reputation, that start to make you the true definition of the word remarkable.
Absolutely.
Clay, there's two questions that I ask of everybody on Words with Friends. I'm going to ask you the penultimate one now. And the penultimate question I have for you is, what is your favorite word and why?
Well, now it's clarity.
There's the why part. There's the why part to that question.
All right.
And you're the only guest that's ever picked their favorite word as being the word that we decided to talk about.
Really? So, I'm the first one?
Yeah, only one.
No, I love talking about clarity, and I love working with you and thinking through this. I mean, I had a blast during this conversation, and I think what I want to leave people with is clarity is something I think we all try to achieve, but sometimes it doesn't have to be complex. It's kind of a loaded word. Like, how am I going to get clear on this, especially during this time? Everything's crazy. But just imagine a good friend, and whether that's Phil or myself or this episode or another friend, just reaching over and adjusting your microscope or your telescope by a quarter of an inch, and all of a sudden you've got clarity. And then, like Phil alluded to earlier, that clarity comes from empathy, and really seeing what's possible for your customers. What are their struggles? What are they worried about? And when you sit in their chair, sit in their shoes, all those things will become more clear.
You've just made a really cool point as well, that in the invitation you just gave to the listeners to go do that for others, there is the giant reverse side of that, that if you're struggling to find clarity for yourself, is who is the person you need to be able to go to surround yourself with. That what they can do is adjust their microscope, telescope a little with their questioning on you that might help you just find it. So take that permission as well. And if you're struggling with something, it might be that you need to get yourself in a Zoom room. You might need to get yourself 6 feet apart from somebody you really care about that can ask you some of the questions that you've been lacking to help you find what it is you really need.
Yeah. What's the scenario and what's the container you need? And sometimes you just have to try a lot of things. I mean, Phil knows well, I've been working on my book for a long time. It should have been done a long time ago. So I'm trying to hack my brain, trying to figure out what does it take? How do I do this? And a lot of people kept saying, "Oh, have a deadline, have a deadline." I've had lots of deadlines zip past me. Now I wave when they zip past me. So deadline didn't work for me in my brain. But what is working is hopping on a Zoom room with some other author friends, folks that we know, and just we say hi for 2 or 3 minutes, and then we write for 30 minutes. At the bottom of the hour, we say, "How's it going?" Check in again, and then write for another 27 minutes. And that's been working, and I've been writing every day and moving towards my book goal. So it doesn't have to be rocket science. Just think of what you need to do.
Love that. Final question is, we're in a set of times right now that are different to normal. When we find ourselves in different times, sometimes we can naturally be using words that we haven't used a great deal in the past. I'm wondering if there is a word that has found itself in your vocabulary that you've been using more often than not, or just something you've caught yourself saying a great deal right now.
Interesting. That's super interesting. I noticed the word penultimate, which is one of my favorite words. So I'm glad you used that recently in teeing this up. Um, it's not a word that I'm using more often, but a word that I'm using slightly differently, which is connection. Um, I think we talk a lot about, followers and things like that. And one of the things I love to talk about is I think we care way too much about Instagram followers and Twitter followers and podcast downloads and things like that. Those are all forms of connection. But I think connections are easy. True connection is hard. So I think
Mhm.
that's more about getting getting off of digital sometimes, going for a walk, getting in human form, which, in our current situation is trickier, but thinking about the word connection differently and what does connection mean to you, I think is a really important thing. I don't think there's any one answer. I don't think there's any right answer, but nowadays, we're forced to do a lot of things digitally, but I think the world is, we have these speaker friends who are saying, oh, the tide's going to turn. Everyone's going to can't wait to get to, a live speaking event or a big, people can't wait to get to big conferences again. Well, that may be true, but they're not excited to be in a convention center again. They're excited to connect with humans. So the word to me is connection. And I would just send everyone with the to-do of thinking, what does connection mean for you? It might be connection with your customers. It might be connection with your family. But what does connection mean to you online? And then what does connection mean to you offline? Because that's why we're here.
You bet. Clay, I'm going to ask people where they can find out a little bit more about you, but beforehand, I'm going to give a shameless plug for something that I think you're doing right now that is a remarkable service to many independent businesses across the world, where you and your partner, Angie Lee, are creating a phenomenal platform of marketing advice for a no-brainer sum of money in Marketing School. How do people get to know more about Marketing School and what you're doing with that program right now?
Yeah, we have a very complex URL called joinmarketingschool.com.
And if they want to get to know more about you as a person, how do they find out more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Clay Hebert. It's spelled nothing like it sounds. It's Clay, and the last name is Hebert. It looks like Hebert, pronounced Hebert, the French spelling, but yeah, ClayHebert.com.
Very good. Well, Clay, thank you for joining me on Words with Friends. This has been a blast. I cannot wait till we can hang out with an old fashioned or a classy bourbon or a glass of something special sometime soon and hang out in person. Perhaps we need to do another Exactly Perfect workshop at some time soon too.
I would love that. Thanks, brother. Always great chatting with you.